I personally believe that you will become President of the Philippines, of the Republic of the Philippines. One of these days, it's not 2016, maybe immediately after. If my perception is similar to yours, what do you intend to do about it? About becoming President of the Philippines?
To achieve any success, I believe in any political career, one must always hold central to your work and to all the efforts that you are doing is that essentially you are in public service. And because you are in public service, the most important measure of your success and of your recognition as a successful and effective public servant is performance. If you have any desire to remain in political life, in public life, then you must always go back. Of course, the partisan forces are there. Of course, there are individual elements that come into play. But I think at the heart of it, one must always say, at the end of the day, I will be judged by my constituency, by my performance, how well I did for them. It's easy to be distracted. It's easy to stray from that idea. But one must just keep reminding oneself that make sure you have done your best, your absolute best. And people will know that. And if you are to enjoy any success, it will flow.
That the Marcos or Romualdez brought leadership to our country. If I die before I finish my 6-year term, Senator Ferdinand Marcos Jr. will be able to fit that bill.
Naman ang kahirapan sa bansa, dapat daw maghanap ng leader na katulad ng dating Pangulong Ferdinand Marcos. Ayon po yan kay Pangulong Duterte. Sa kanyang talumpati sa ika-121 anibersaryo ng hukbong dagat ng Pilipinas kahapon, sinabi niyang wala ng pag-asang masolusyon ang problemang ito ng bansa. Maliban na lang kung si Marcos muli ang mamuno. Talabak daw kasi talagang korupsyon saan ka man magpunta.
Nawalaan ng ako ng gana. Akala ko, within the constitutional powers na binigay sa akin, kaya ko. Pero sa batas na ito, Constitution, even if you give me 20 years, I cannot do it. Maghanap uli kayo ng Marcos. Or someday, somehow, somewhere, that fellow will be elected in the generations.
I mentioned the Marshall Plan because it was something that we examined and to see the effects. It was an intellectual exercise in my economics class. And the conclusions that we arrived at was that the trickle-down, the Marshall Plan was based on the idea of trickle-down. Just send a lot of money, invest in the big ticket items, and the benefits of that will trickle down to the lowest parts of the economy. And upon examination, 10, 20 years after the Marshall Plan, it turns out that trickle-down theory does not work. It is not the role of business. It is not the role of the private sector to try and help that the distribution of wealth. The job of the private sector is to add value to all that you are doing in services, in goods, and to follow a socially responsible profit motive. That is an important function in the progress of our society, of our economy. It is up to the government to change that situation. We must make active policy decisions. We must take active implementation of that policy, where the distribution of wealth is done at a much better pace. We must always look to the disenfranchised. We always must look to those who are vulnerable, and that is the job of government. And that is something that we have not been. I do not think that we have addressed properly.
Mrs. Marcos, if we go by all of these, you are rich beyond compare. No, this will save the world. The world. This is the reason why I want to survive. And it's not for me anymore. So, Mrs. Marcos, are you saying you're open to giving some or an amount of this one to the country, to the Filipinos? No, not only the Filipinos, but the world.
Support for Bongbong Marcos. If I'm elected president and something happens to me, somebody young and idealistic, as you have witnessed, to take over the reins of government.
We hear often about the 7% growth rate, and yet we spend 65 billion on the CCTs. The poverty rate does not change. The unemployment rate does not change. The literacy rate does not change. The mortality rate in our hospitals does not change. So basically, the way we are doing it is not working. It is often cited, the examples of Brazil and India in the CCTs as a tool for the distribution of wealth. In Brazil and in India, the CCTs were funded by corporate taxes. Hence, you can see there really is a distribution of wealth element in that. In the Philippines, CCTs are funded by borrowings. So that immediately wipes out the entire, one of the most important parts of the CCTs, which is the distribution of wealth. So we have to rethink some policy. Anyone who has made even a cursory examination of any economy and its reactions and its policies towards poverty will know that direct transfer payments, i.e. throwing money at the problem, simply doesn't work. Hence is the very famous Chinese saying about fishes. Don't give me a fish, teach me how to fish. And this is what we must do. We must give people the opportunity to make it better. How do we do that? At the very beginning of that entire process, improve our educational system. With a well-trained, well-experienced workforce, you can do anything. And that will provide opportunities for people. That, again, if there are more high school graduates, there are more college graduates, literacy rate is improved. And in this day and age, our command of the English language is important. Because for better or for worse, that is the language of the internet, that is the language of commerce. All of those things we must provide as a service of government. And I have always believed in the principle that education is the most important service that government provides its people. And that is just the beginning point. Then you must, again, have faith in your own economy and that you invest in it. You invest in your own economy. Because when you invest in roads, when you invest in transport systems, when you invest in power plants, you are not investing in an economy. You're investing in your people. Because you are making an investment to provide your people with an opportunity, with a framework in which they can flourish. Look at Filipinos abroad. When given the opportunity, they work, and knowing what the rules that are stable. You work hard, you do well, and with a bit of luck, you make it. And look at them, they make it. Filipinos make it. And we are not only successful, we are actually sought out because of the good work that we do. That all else being equal, they will choose a Filipino over another nationality. With such an asset, I cannot understand why we are in the doldrums when it comes to job creation, when it comes to the quality of life issues that we are facing. And can you imagine the 8 million Filipinos, all their skill and industry and resourcefulness that we are all famous for? Can you imagine bringing them all back to the Philippines? Can you imagine the contribution that they will make to nation building, to our progress? That is something that we really have to do, is to understand that government is here to provide a framework for the private sector to flourish. And there are many ways to do that, some simple, some more complicated, but nevertheless, that should be the job as we see it, in terms of the partnership that we are asking the private sector to join in with government. On the tax structure, it will have to depend, fiscal policy always depends on the industrialization policy, the investment policy of any country. I was a little bit surprised to hear in the Sonnet that our manufacturing sector was vibrant. I am still, to this point, trying to find where that vibrant manufacturing sector exists. So, but that is something that I believe we should be attending to. We don't make anything anymore. And the most successful economy in the last 10, 15 years has been an economy based on making things. China, they make everything. And that is what we should try to learn those things.
Thank you for your feedback.
Telecommunications has made the world what it is now. It is what made the world global. We cannot say that an economic activity exists solely in one place. Suppliers come from everywhere, the marketing goes to everywhere. I think it was 5-6 years ago where the volume of commerce conducted on the internet passed the volume of commerce conducted face-to-face. That is something that we must immediately recognize. When I first came to be chairman of the Committee on Public Works and Infrastructure, there was no mention of development of the internet. And we must now start to change our mindset and think telecommunications, the internet, is part of the essential infrastructure of any country. We now have the most expensive internet in the world. The only country whose internet is slower than the Philippines is Afghanistan. And we are the second slowest. How are we supposed to conduct business on this basis? I think it is in terms of policy that we are lacking. But again, we need not reinvent the wheel. We can see the examples of many other countries, both in the region and outside, who have made a success of it and who continue to make a success of it. And again, the technologies exist, the skills that are required exist. It's just a question of us taking on the policy and the concept that this is important and it's an essential. It's not a luxury. It's not for fun. It is because this is the way that business is conducted in this day and age.